The rain-soaked streets of Willow Creek, Oregon, glistened under the dim street lights. But for Eli Carter, the world was a blur of betrayal. At 25, he stood outside the family diner, the neon sign flickering Carter's above him, a cruel reminder of the legacy that had cast him out. He clutched a crumpled letter, its ink smudged from his tears, bearing the words that had shattered his heart. "We chose Caleb. You're not welcome here anymore." Eli's family had always favored his older brother, Caleb, the golden son who could do no wrong. Growing up, Eli was the quiet one, the dreamer with a sketchbook, whose gentle nature and secret love for his childhood friend, Jamie, marked him as different in a town where conformity was king. When Eli came out as gay at 18, the Carters' world imploded. His father, Tom, a stoic man forged by small-town values, saw it as a betrayal of their name. His mother, Ellen, wept not for Eli's pain, but for the shame she feared would taint their diner's reputation. Caleb, ever the dutiful son, stood by their parents, urging Eli to fix himself or leave. So, Eli left. 7 years later, Eli had built a life in Portland, a city that embraced him. He was a rising artist, his paintings of longing and resilience gracing gallery walls. He shared a cozy apartment with Jamie, now his partner, whose warm brown eyes and infectious laugh had been Eli's anchor through the darkest nights. But the letter in his hand, delivered just hours ago, dragged him back to Willow Creek. Caleb was missing. The family needed him. Eli's phone buzzed in his pocket. Jamie's name lit up the screen. "You don't have to go back," Jamie had said that morning, his voice soft but firm. "They don't deserve you." But Eli couldn't shake the pull of duty, the faint hope that returning might heal old wounds or at least give him closure. He stuffed the letter into his jacket and stepped into the diner, the bell above the door jangling like a warning. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of coffee and regret. Tom sat at the counter, his broad shoulders hunched, eyes hollow. Ellen stood beside him, wringing her hands, her face a map of worry. The diner was empty, a stark contrast to the bustling hub it had been in Eli's childhood. "Eli," Ellen whispered, her voice cracking. "Thank you for coming." "Where's Caleb?" Eli asked, his tone clipped. He hadn't spoken to them in years, and the weight of their last words still hung between them. Tom cleared his throat. "He's been gone 3 weeks. Left a note saying he was heading to the mountains. But no one's heard from him since. The sheriff's out of ideas." His voice wavered, a rare crack in his armor. "We need you, Eli. You always knew him best." Eli's chest tightened. Knew him best. Caleb had been his hero once, the brother who taught him to ride a bike, who snuck him extra fries when their parents weren't looking. But that bond had frayed when Caleb chose loyalty to their parents over love for his brother. Now, they expected Eli to fix their mess. "I'm not here to play savior," Eli said, his voice low but steady. "You made it clear I wasn't family. Why should I care now?" Ellen flinched, tears spilling. "We were wrong. Eli. Please. He's your brother." Eli wanted to walk away, to let them drown in their regret. But something in his mother's eyes, a flicker of the love he'd once known, stopped him. He thought of Jamie, waiting back in Portland, who'd urged him to find peace, not vengeance. "I'll help," Eli said finally. But not for you. For Caleb. The next morning, Eli drove to the edge of Willow Creek, where the dense forests of the Cascade Mountains loomed. Caleb had always loved these woods, their wildness a mirror to his restless spirit. Eli remembered their teenage hikes, Caleb's stories of adventure, and the way his brother's laughter could drown out the world. But those memories were tainted now, shadowed by Caleb's silence when Eli needed him most. At the sheriff's station, Deputy Ruiz, a no-nonsense woman with a sharp gaze, handed Eli a map marked with Caleb's last known location. He was seen near Blackthorn Ridge. She said, "Hikers found his truck, but no sign of him. Be careful, those trails are treacherous." Eli nodded, his mind racing. Why had Caleb gone to the mountains? Was he running from something? Or chasing it? As he packed a bag with supplies, a familiar figure appeared at the station door. "Jamie, you didn't think I'd let you do this alone, did you?" Jamie said, his smile a quiet rebellion against the town's judgment. Eli's heart swelled. "You hate this place," he said. "I love you more," Jamie replied, squeezing his hand. Together, they headed into the mountains, the weight of Eli's past pressing against the hope of finding Caleb. The trail was rugged, the air sharp with pine and uncertainty. As they climbed, Eli couldn't shake the feeling that this search was about more than his brother's disappearance site, was about reclaiming the pieces of himself Willow Creek had tried to erase. By dusk, they reached Blackthorn Ridge, a jagged outcrop overlooking a vast valley. Eli's flashlight swept across the ground, catching something glinting in the dirt, a silver keychain, engraved with Caleb's initials. Eli's breath caught. "He was here," he whispered. Jamie knelt beside him, his hand steady on Eli's shoulder. "We'll find him," he said. "Whatever it takes." Eli clutched the keychain, his resolve hardening. He didn't know what lay ahead: danger, answers, or more heartbreak, but for the first time in years, he felt ready to face it. Caleb was out there, and Eli would bring him home, not for his family, but for the brother he'd once loved. And maybe, just maybe, for himself. The forest was a labyrinth of shadows, each rustling leaf a whisper of secrets Caleb might have left behind. Eli and Jamie pressed deeper into the Cascades, their boots crunching against the frost-kissed earth. The keychain in Eli's pocket felt like a talisman, urging him forward, but also a weight, tethering him to a family that had turned its back on him. As they trekked, Eli's mind drifted to the last time he'd seen Caleb. 7 years ago, in the diner's backroom. Caleb had stood silent as their father's ultimatum echoed, "Fix yourself, or don't come back." Eli had looked to his brother, hoping for a spark of the camaraderie they'd shared as kids. But Caleb's eyes were cold, his jaw set. That betrayal cut deeper than his parents' rejection. Now, Eli wondered if Caleb's disappearance was tied to guilt, or something darker. Jamie broke the silence. "You okay?" His voice was soft, but his eyes searched Eli's face with a tenderness that made Eli's chest ache. "I don't know," Eli admitted. "Part of me wants to find him, to know he's safe. The other part wants to scream at him for choosing them over me." Jamie nodded, his hand finding Eli's. "You don't have to forgive him to find him. Just don't lose yourself in this." Eli squeezed Jamie's hand, grateful for his presence. Jamie had grown up in Willow Creek too, the son of a mechanic, always on the fringes of the town's rigid social order. He'd been Eli's first love. Their stolen kisses behind the high school bleachers a quiet defiance against a world that didn't understand them. When Eli left, Jamie followed, building a life together in Portland where they could be free. Now, here in the mountains, Jamie was a reminder that love could be a home, even when family wasn't. They set up camp near a small stream. The water's murmur a stark contrast to the tension coiling in Eli's gut. As they sat by the fire, Jamie pulled out a worn journal from his pack. "Found this in Caleb's truck when I checked it earlier," he said, handing it to Eli. "The sheriff missed it." Eli's fingers trembled as he opened the journal. Caleb's messy scrawl filled the page's notes about hiking trails, sketches of the mountains, and cryptic phrases like, "I can't keep pretending, and they'll never forgive me." One entry, dated a month ago, stopped Eli cold. "I saw Eli's painting online. He's happy. I'm not. I ruined everything." Eli's throat tightened. He knew I was doing okay, he whispered, but he never reached out. Jamie leaned closer, reading over his shoulder. "Sounds like he's been carrying something heavy. Maybe that's why he came out here." Eli flipped to the last page, where a single line was scrawled, "Blackthorn Ridge." "I need to face it." The words sent a chill down his spine. What was Caleb facing? Guilt? A secret? Or something more dangerous? At dawn, they followed the trail to a narrow ravine, where the air grew colder and the trees thinner. Eli's heart pounded as he spotted a scrap of fabric caught on a jagged rock. Caleb's red flannel, torn and stained with what looked like dried blood. "Jamie," he called, his voice shaking. Jamie examined the fabric, his face grim. Could be from a fall, or something worse. "We need to keep moving." Eli nodded, but fear gnawed at him. Caleb wasn't just missing, might be hurt. Or worse. The thought of losing his brother, despite everything, twisted something deep inside him. He remembered Caleb's laugh, the way he'd ruffle Eli's hair when they were kids, calling him little artist. Those moments felt like another lifetime, but they fueled Eli's determination now. As they climbed higher, the trail grew treacherous, slick with ice and loose stones. Jamie stayed close, his steady presence a lifeline. At one point, Eli slipped, his foot catching on a root. Jamie grabbed him, pulling him back from the edge of a steep drop. "Careful," Jamie said, his voice tight. "I'm not losing you out here." Eli managed a weak smile. "Not going anywhere without you." By midday, they found a small cave tucked into the ridge, its entrance partially hidden by vines. Inside, they discovered signs of recent use: crumpled sleeping bag, empty water bottles, and a small pile of ashes from a fire. Eli's pulse raced. "He was here," he said, his voice echoing off the stone walls. Jamie pointed to a faint carving on the cave wall. "See. Was here." "Sorry, Eli." The words hit like a punch. Caleb had been here, alive, and he'd left this message for him. Eli's anger and hurt warred with a flicker of hope. Maybe Caleb regretted his silence. Maybe there was a chance to rebuild something. But the blood on the flannel loomed in Eli's mind. "We're close," he said, his voice resolute. "We keep going." As they left the cave, a distant rumble echoed through the mountains. A storm was coming. The sky darkened, and Eli felt the weight of time pressing down. Caleb was out there, and every moment mattered. He glanced at Jamie, whose determined expression mirrored his own. They weren't just searching for Caleb, they were searching for answers. For closure. For a way to heal the wounds that had festered for years. Thunder cracked overhead as Eli and Jamie pushed through the thickening storm. Rain lashed their faces, turning the trail into a muddy quagmire. Eli's heart pounded, not just from the climb, but from the growing fear that they were running out of time. The carving in the cave, Eli burned in his mind, a fragile thread connecting him to Caleb. Was it a plea for forgiveness? Or a goodbye? They followed the ravine, guided by the map and Caleb's journal. The entries grew more erratic, filled with confessions. I lied to them about you. I said you'd come back fixed. I knew you wouldn't. Eli's chest ached with each word. Caleb had known who Eli was, had known he'd never change. Yet he'd let their parents' rejection stand. Why? Jamie's voice cut through the rain. Look. He pointed to a faint trail veering off into a dense thicket. Amid the underbrush, they found a backpack Caleb's. Its straps frayed, contents soaked. Inside were a half-eaten energy bar, a cracked phone, and a photo of the Carter family, taken when Eli was 12. In it, Caleb had his arm around Eli, both of them grinning. Eli's throat tightened. Why had Caleb kept this? He's not far, Eli said, clutching the photo. He's got to be close. The storm worsened, lightning illuminating the jagged cliffs above. Jamie grabbed Eli's arm. We need shelter. This is getting dangerous. Eli shook his head. Not yet. He's out here. Jamie. I can feel it. Jamie's eyes softened, but his grip tightened. I know you want to find him, but we won't help him if we get hurt. Let's wait out the worst of this. Reluctantly, Eli agreed. They found a rocky overhang, huddling together as the wind howled. Jamie wrapped his jacket around Eli, their shared warmth a small defiance against the cold. You're doing this for him, Jamie said. But you're also doing it for you. Don't forget that. Eli nodded, staring at the photo in his hand. He remembered that day, 4th of July, the air thick with barbecue smoke and laughter. Caleb had been his protector then, shielding him from the bigger kids who teased him for drawing instead of playing football. When had that changed? When had Caleb decided Eli was a problem to be fixed? As the storm eased, they pressed on, following the trail to a clearing where the trees parted to reveal a steep drop into a gorge. Eli's stomach lurched as he spotted something below a figure, crumpled at the base of the cliff. Caleb, he shouted, his voice raw. They scrambled down, slipping on wet rocks. The figure was Caleb, his face pale, one leg bent at an unnatural angle. He was alive, but barely, his breathing shallow. Eli, he rasped, his eyes fluttering open. You came. Eli dropped to his knees, tears mixing with the rain on his face. Yeah, I came. Hang on. Okay. Jamie checked Caleb's pulse, his expression grim. He's hypothermic and probably concussed. We need to get him out of here. Fast. Eli's mind raced. The nearest town was miles away, and the storm had made the trails nearly impassable. But Caleb's hand gripped his, weak but desperate. "I'm sorry," Caleb whispered. "I didn't mean to hurt you." The words hit Eli like a tidal wave. He wanted to scream, to demand why Caleb had stayed silent all those years. But the pain in his brother's eyes stopped him. There would be time for answers later if Caleb survived. Using branches and their jackets, they fashioned a makeshift stretcher. The climb back up was grueling. Each step a battle against the mud and Caleb's fading strength. Eli's muscles burned, but he refused to stop. Jamie took the lead, his calm determination anchoring them both. At one point, Caleb's eyes met Eli's, and for a moment, they were kids again, bound by love, not betrayal. By the time they reached the trailhead, night had fallen. Eli's phone had one bar of signal enough to call Deputy Ruiz. "We found him," Eli said, his voice shaking. "He's alive, but he needs a medevac." Ruiz promised help was on the way. As they waited, Eli sat beside Caleb, holding his hand. "Why'd you come out here?" Eli asked softly. Caleb's voice was faint. "I couldn't live with it anymore. The guilt. I thought, if I disappeared, it'd be easier for everyone." Eli's heart broke. "You were wrong," he said. "We need you. I need you." Caleb's eyes closed, a tear slipping down his cheek. Eli didn't know if his brother heard him, but he held on, praying the chopper would come in time. Jamie sat beside him, a quiet pillar of strength. The mountains loomed around them, silent witnesses to a family fractured but not yet broken. The chopper's blades sliced through the night, a beacon of hope in the relentless dark. Eli and Jamie stood back as medics swarmed Caleb, stabilizing him for the flight to Portland. Eli's hands trembled, the weight of the past hours crashing over him. Caleb was alive, but the road ahead was uncertain both for his brother's survival and for the fractured bonds they'd left behind. At the hospital, Eli paced the sterile waiting room, the antiseptic smell stinging his nose. Jamie sat nearby, his presence a steady anchor. "He's strong," Jamie said, breaking the silence. "He's a Carter. Like you." Eli managed a weak smile. "I don't know if that's a good thing anymore." The doctor emerged, her face tired but calm. "Caleb's stable. Broken leg, concussion, and hypothermia. But he's responding to treatment. You got him here just in time." Relief flooded Eli, but it was tangled with dread. He hadn't faced his parents since the diner, and now they were on their way. The thought of seeing them again churned his stomach. What would they say? Would they still see him as the son they'd rejected? When Tom and Ellen arrived, their faces were etched with exhaustion and fear. Ellen rushed to Eli, her arms outstretched. But he stepped back, his body stiff. "How is he?" she asked, her voice trembling. "He'll make it," Eli said curtly. "No thanks to you." Tom's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. "Can we see him?" Eli nodded, leading them to Caleb's room. His brother lay pale against the white sheets, and four dripping into his arm. Ellen stifled a sob, clutching Tom's hand. Eli stood at the foot of the bed, feeling like an outsider in his own family. Caleb stirred, his eyes finding Eli. You saved me, he murmured. Why? Eli swallowed hard. Because you're my brother. Even after everything. Tom cleared his throat, his voice rough. Eli, we owe you an apology. We were wrong. About you. About everything. The words hung in the air, heavy with years of pain. Eli wanted to believe them, but trust was a fragile thing, shattered long ago. You chose him over me, Eli said, his voice breaking. You let me go? Ellen's tears fell freely. We thought we were protecting the family. We didn't understand. We didn't try to. Eli looked at Caleb, whose eyes were filled with regret. I should have stood up for you, Caleb said. I was scared. Of them. Of the town. Of what it meant. I let you down. The room felt too small. The air too thick. Eli's anger surged. But beneath it was a longing for the family they'd been. For the love they'd lost. He thought of Jamie, waiting outside, who'd shown him what real love looked like. Maybe forgiveness wasn't about erasing the past, but building something new. I need time, Eli said finally. I'm not ready to just forget. Tom nodded, his eyes glistening. We'll wait. As long as it takes. Over the next few days, Eli and Jamie stayed in Portland, visiting Caleb as he recovered. The hospital became a strange neutral ground, where old wounds were aired, and tentative steps toward healing began. Caleb shared more about his disappearance he'd been unraveling under the pressure of being the perfect son, haunted by his role in Eli's exile. The mountains had been his escape, a place to confront his shame, but he'd underestimated their dangers. One evening, as Eli sat by Caleb's bedside, his brother reached for his hand. I saw your art, Caleb said. It's you. All the stuff you felt. You put it out there. I'm proud of you. Eli's eyes stung. I thought you hated who I was. Caleb shook his head. I hated myself for not being brave like you. Those words lingered as Eli and Jamie returned to their apartment. The city lights sparkled outside their window, a reminder of the life they'd built together. Eli felt a shift inside him, not forgiveness. Not yet, but a crack in the wall he'd built around his heart. He leaned against Jamie, drawing strength from his warmth. We're going to be okay, Jamie whispered. Eli nodded, his gaze drifting to a blank canvas in the corner. Maybe it was time to paint something new, not just for himself, but for the family he might one day reclaim. Back in Willow Creek, the diner was a ghost of its former self. Dust clung to the countertops, and the once lively chatter of customers had faded to silence. Eli stood in the doorway, the bell above jingling faintly, a sound that carried both nostalgia and pain. He'd come to collect Caleb's things, but the weight of the place pressed against him, stirring memories of late-night milkshakes and his mother's rare, warm smiles. Tom was behind the counter, wiping it down with a rag, though it was already spotless. Eli, he said, his voice hesitant. Didn't expect you back here. Neither did I, Eli replied, his tone guarded. He glanced around, noticing the faded photos on the walls, family moments that felt like relics now. One caught his eye, him and Caleb, arms slung around each other, laughing at some forgotten joke. He turned away, his chest tight. Caleb's coming home tomorrow, Tom said. Docs say he's healing fast. Thanks to you. Eli nodded, unsure how to respond. Gratitude from his father felt foreign, like a language he'd forgotten. He moved to the back room, where Caleb's old jacket hung on a hook. As he reached for it, a small notebook fell out, its pages filled with more of Caleb's scrawl. One entry read, "I told them Eli was weak, but I was the coward. I need to make this right." Eli's breath hitched. Caleb had been wrestling with his guilt long before the mountains. The realization softened something in Eli, but it didn't erase the years of silence. He tucked the notebook into his pocket and headed out, passing Tom without a word. Outside, Jamie was waiting in their rented car, his expression soft but searching. "You okay?" he asked as Eli slid into the passenger seat. "I don't know what I am," Eli admitted. "It's like I'm stuck between hating them and wanting them back." Jamie reached for his hand. "You don't have to choose today. Let's get Caleb settled, then figure out what's next." The next day, Caleb returned to Willow Creek, his leg in a cast, but his spirit brighter. The townsfolk rallied around him, bringing casseroles and well wishes. But their warmth felt hollow to Eli. These were the same people who'd whispered about him, who'd made his coming out a scandal. Yet, as he watched Caleb laugh with an old neighbor, Eli saw a chance for something different in a town that might change, just as his family was trying to. At the Carter house, Ellen had prepared Caleb's old room, the air thick with the scent of her famous pot roast. She hugged Caleb tightly, then turned to Eli, her eyes pleading. "Stay for dinner," she said. "Please." Eli hesitated, glancing at Jamie, who gave a small nod. "Okay," Eli said, his voice barely above a whisper. Dinner was awkward, the clink of silverware loud in the silence. Caleb broke the tension, his voice light. "Remember when Eli tried to make pancakes and set off the smoke alarm?" he said, a grin tugging at his lips. Eli couldn't help but laugh, the memory loosening something inside him. "You ate them anyway," he shot back. The table warmed with tentative smiles, but the undercurrent of pain remained. After dinner, Eli stepped onto the porch, needing air. Caleb followed, hobbling on his crutches. "I don't expect you to forgive me," Caleb said, "but I'm going to keep trying to make it right." Eli looked at his brother, seeing the boy who'd once been his best friend. "I want to believe you," he said, "but it's going to take more than words." Caleb nodded, his eyes steady. "I know. I'm not going anywhere." That night, Eli and Jamie stayed in a local motel, the hum of the neon sign outside their window a faint echo of the diner. As they lay in bed, Eli traced the lines of Jamie's face, grateful for the love that had carried him through. "What if I can't let them back in?" he whispered. "Then we build our own family," Jamie said, pulling him close. "But I think you're stronger than you know." Eli closed his eyes, the weight of the day settling over him. He didn't have all the answers, but for the first time, he felt like he could face the questions. Weeks passed, and Willow Creek began to feel less like a prison and more like a place Eli could navigate. Caleb's recovery was steady, and with it came conversations halting at first, then deeper, as they peeled back the layers of their shared history. One afternoon, at the diner, Caleb handed Eli a sketchbook. "Found this in my old room," he said. "It's yours. From before." Eli opened it, his breath catching at the drawing's landscapes. Faces. Moments from their childhood. All in his teenage hand. One page showed Caleb, smiling, his eyes bright with the confidence Eli had once envied. "You kept this?" Eli asked. "Couldn't throw it out," Caleb said. "It was all I had left of you." The admission cracked something in Eli's resolve. He wanted to stay angry, to hold on to the hurt. But Caleb's sincerity was disarming. They spent the afternoon talking, not just about the past, but about who they were now. Caleb admitted he'd been lost, trapped in the role of the perfect son, afraid to challenge their parents' views. "I didn't understand you then," he said, "but I'm trying to now." Eli nodded, his throat tight. "I needed you to try back then." "I know," Caleb said, his voice breaking. "I'll carry that regret forever." Back in Portland, Eli threw himself into his art, channeling the chaos of his emotions onto canvas. His latest paisea, stormy mountain scene with two figures reaching for each other, drew crowds at his gallery show. Jamie stood beside him, proud, as collectors praised the raw emotion in his work. But Eli's mind was on Willow Creek, on the family he was cautiously letting back in. One evening, Tom called. "We're reopening the diner," he said. "We'd like you to be there. You and Jamie." Eli hesitated. The diner was a battleground of memories, but it was also a chance to rewrite them. "We'll come," he said finally. The reopening was a small affair, but the town showed up, their curiosity tinged with warmth. Eli noticed a rainbow flag sticker on the diner's window, a small gesture, but one that made his heart skip. Ellen caught his eye, her smile tentative. "We're learning," she said. "It's not much, but it's a start." During the event, Caleb pulled Eli aside. "I've been talking to Dad about the diner," he said. "We want to make it a place for everyone. Maybe even host a pride event next year." Eli raised an eyebrow. "You're serious?" "Dead serious," Caleb said. "I want this town to be a place you're proud to come back to." The words hit Eli hard. He saw his brother's effort, not just to mend their bond, but to change the world around them. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. He glanced at Jamie, who was laughing with a group of locals, his ease a reminder that love could bridge even the deepest divides. As the night wound down, Eli stepped outside, the stars bright above Willow Creek. He felt a strange peace, like the pieces of his life were starting to fit together. The pain of his family's rejection would always be part of him, but so would the strength he'd found in himself and in Jamie. The seasons turned, and Willow Creek began to change. The diner became a hub again, not just for greasy burgers, but for conversations that challenged old norms. Eli visited more often, each trip a step toward reconciliation. He and Caleb worked together on a mural for the diner's wall, a vibrant depiction of the Cascades, with subtle rainbow hues woven into the sky. It was their way of claiming space, of saying, "We're here, and we belong." One spring day, Eli and Jamie returned for a town festival. The air buzzed with music and laughter, and for the first time, Eli didn't feel like an outsider. Ellen had organized a small booth selling Pride-themed cookies. her nervous smile a testament to her effort. Tom manned the grill, his gruff demeanor softened by the kids who ran up to him, calling him Grandpa Tom despite having no blood relation. Caleb, now fully recovered, took Eli to the edge of town, where the mountains loomed. "I've been thinking," Caleb said. "I want to start a youth group here. A safe space for kids like you were. Kids who feel like they don't fit." Eli's heart swelled. "That's incredible," he said. "But it won't be easy. This town's got a long way to go." "I know," Caleb said. "But I've got you to show me how." The brothers stood in silence, the weight of their past balanced by the promise of their future. Eli thought of the boy he'd been, scared and alone, and the man he was now, loved and resilient. He didn't have all the answers, but he had hope. Back at the festival, Jamie found Eli, slipping an arm around his waist. "Proud of you," he whispered. "For what?" Eli asked, leaning into him. "For not giving up. On them. On yourself." As the sun set, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold, Eli felt a sense of home not just in Willow Creek, but in the life he'd built, the love he'd found, and the family he was slowly reclaiming. The road ahead was long, but he wasn't walking it alone. A year later, the diner hosted its first Pride event, a small but vibrant gathering that drew people from neighboring towns. Rainbow flags fluttered alongside American ones, and the air was filled with laughter, music, and the scent of Ellen's cookies. Eli stood at the mural he and Caleb had painted, now a local landmark, his heart full as he watched kids dance without fear, their parents cheering them on. Caleb took the stage, his voice steady as he spoke. "This is for my brother, Eli," he said, his eyes finding Eli in the crowd. "He showed me what courage looks like. This town's better because of him." The crowd applauded, and Eli felt tears prick his eyes. Jamie squeezed his hand, his smile radiant. "You did this," Jamie said. "You changed them." Eli shook his head. "We did it. Together." Later, as the event wound down, Eli found his parents in the diner, cleaning up. Ellen hugged him, her embrace fierce. "I'm so proud of you," she said. "I'm sorry it took us so long to see you." Tom placed a hand on Eli's shoulder, his grip firm but warm. "You're our son," he said simply. "Always will be." The words were a balm to wounds Eli thought would never heal. He didn't know if he'd ever fully forgive them, but he was ready to try. As he and Jamie walked back to their car, the mountains glowed under the moonlight, a reminder of the journey that had brought them here. Eli's art continued to flourish, his paintings now telling stories of reconciliation and hope. Caleb's youth group grew, offering a lifeline to kids who needed it. Willow Creek wasn't perfect, but it was trying, and that was enough for now. As they drove back to Portland, Jamie turned to Eli. "You ever think about what's next?" Eli smiled, his heart lighter than it had been in years. "Yeah," he said. "More love, more art, more us. And maybe, just maybe, a family that's finally whole." The road stretched ahead, winding through the mountains, leading them home to each other, to themselves, and to a future they'd fought for, together.